advice to the youngins coming up is like, just keep your eyes open for opportunities. Just head on a swivel. Go learn food as high as possible. Just learn this food, and then you can do anything underneath it. Don't go for the money too early.
This episode is brought to you by FultonFishMarket.com, the most trusted name in seafood. FultonFishMarket.com is the e-commerce provider for New York's iconic Fulton Fish Market, the largest seafood market in the Western Hemisphere, trusted by top chefs for over 200 years. Fulton Fish Market provides a range of world-class seafood options. FultonFishMarket.com can help you serve a wide range of customers, whether you serve high-profile individuals or just strive for culinary excellence. They deliver directly to your doorstep in all 48 contiguous states, providing a comprehensive selection of the finest seafood, from wild fish to caviar and shellfish. When it comes to seafood, FultonFishMarket.com is our go-to destination and the name we trust. Let's celebrate those who support us and dive into this episode of the Private Chef podcast with a taste of excellence and freshness. Visit www.fultonfishmarket.com to get 15% off your first order. Use code PrivateChef at checkout. Welcome to the Private Chef podcast, serving the 1%. I'm your host, Hennche. And on our show, we speak to the best chefs, how they honed in on their skills to excel in the industry, and what it takes to work as a private chef for some of the most exclusive clients in the world. Welcome back to the Private Chef podcast. I'm your host, Hannes Hennche. Join us today in the incredible story of Chef Brennan Dates. With 20 years of experience as a classically trained chef and a head chef on Superyachts, not only is he the host of the Get the Fork Out podcast, but he's also the creator behind Olive Oil and Gasoline YouTube channel, guiding thousands of subscribers through the world of cooking and fearless travel on his motorcycle. With a keen eye developed from witnessing both superbly crafted galleys and those lacking in utility, Chef Brennan initiated the Superyacht galley design movement. Beyond his culinary expertise, Chef Brennan has explored approximately 100 different countries and many more to come, immersing himself in diverse cultures, meeting new people, and a lot of culinary experiences. Welcome to the show, Brennan.
Thank you for having me. Yeah, this is great. I'm excited. Yeah. This is my first podcast, actually.
You mean the first time you're a guest?
First time I'm a guest, yeah.
You know, I was a guest on a podcast the other day, and I found it actually more challenging.
Uh-oh.
Don't worry, this won't be challenging.
All right.
So where did your love for food, the passion for cooking stem from? Is it something that was in the family, or, I mean, you already told me that you were that 14-year-old kid who wanted to become a cook, but where did that come from?
I think it was watching people's reaction to, because my dad was a good cook. So I think watching people's reaction to that, I was like, that's pretty cool. You know, if you cook good food, you make people happy, and you become popular. And I think that was my small brain kind of working away. But yeah, I just kind of locked onto that idea and started cooking in high school. So these just kind of, I think it was Euro chef class, and it just came really easy to me, and it was super fun. And yeah, that's where it started.
Nice. And then, what was the journey like to go from starting in high school and then eventually working on Superyachts? What happened in between?
So I got a scholarship to go to Johnson & Wales in Rhode Island at a very, very young age. Won this recipe contest for the state of Vermont, which was quite cool. Again, Dad pushed me to do that, and I was like, I don't want to do that, but I ended up winning. So then go to Johnson & Wales, have an amazing time there, and then get recruited to work in Florida, in the Cape Cod, and that turns into Florida Keys, and then back up to Boston, like just working at super high level restaurants. This is long before Michelin stars were in the US, but worked at Little Palm Island, Relais and Chateau down in Florida Keys, and then worked for Lydia Shire up in Boston, and she was incredible chef. And so was Michelle Raymond at Little Palm Island, and just really amazing mentors that super knowledgeable about food. And Lydia kind of showed me that, you know, American food is a mix. It's everything. I think on her menu it said it's American eclectic, which is a great term, but like she would doubled down on that, and she would just travel the world and figure out what the honest, how you make naan bread in a tandoori. Like we had a tandoori oven in the dining room in a non-Indian restaurant because naan bread is that good, and we should just have naan bread in the bread basket. Like that kind of, inspirational for sure.
Yeah, I love fresh naan bread. I mean, I just came back from India, and I just love the whole concept around the tandoori. And the funny thing is, I mean, they literally have just one person doing that in every restaurant, you know, so you get everything piping hot. And I just love that, you know. I always only order one, and then I order the next one, so it comes piping hot out of the oven.
I love it. Yeah, the chapati, parantha, like the bread game is super high there. And it all stems from the tandoori.
Yeah. And then how did you get onto the yachts? What was your segue in?
So I was working at Little Palm Island, and like this kind of old, I was 19, and this one of the older chefs, he's in his 40s, and he was kind of new to cooking. Like we both just graduated culinary school, just 20 years apart in age. And he kind of bullshitted his way onto a yacht in Fort Lauderdale. And, he left the kitchen that we were working in together. And then I went to visit him in Fort Lauderdale. I saw this. It was called The Other Woman was the name of the yacht. Just this like weird sailboaty motor yacht thing. And, just to go see it and just be like, oh, this is cool. So you're going to work on this and you're just going to go to the Caribbean and then to Europe. Oh, I'm down. So that was a big eye opener. And then, one of our, like my friend Jamie, her dad, he ended up becoming a yacht captain, and I would touch base with him and eventually work for him on the deckhand for 6 months. And then he would plop me down in Fort Lauderdale during the boat show and be like, so just like a couple different people in my network we're doing this cool thing that I need to check it out. It never looked back to restaurants after that. I still go and do stages. Like I love that my youth was raised in restaurants. Like, and it's a crazy youth, as you probably know. It's a weird way to grow up. It's super stressful. It's pretty wild. And to get into yachts is like for me. I'm not saying they're better than restaurants in any way. For me, yachts definitely.
And I think this is one of the important parts in a career is to figure out, like, you can be a chef in so many different ways, but like find what feels right to you. And earlier we spoke about, like, should I go back to a restaurant or not? I'm like, I know I will never work at a line again.
Yeah.
I would rather die than go back to a restaurant.
Yeah. The stress levels for the amount of money you take home, it just doesn't, they don't match. But it's a great way to grow up, though. I feel like it's interesting, you know.
Let's double click on that. So both of us went into the kitchen pretty early in our teenage years, but how do you feel like that shaped you? Because I feel like I have to undo a lot of the damage that got done in that.
Yeah. I think I'm still damaged. I don't know if I've undone any of it. Yeah, I mean, I remember being in the walk-in, 20 years old, just gagging, if I didn't have enough prep done for the 350 we were going to do for service that night. And the stress levels are high, getting yelled at. It's really, really hard. Then the hours are a bit brutal. But I think that's kind of like where the negative stuff ends. And then the good stuff is, and this could be a negative for some people, but you're born at night. Like you get out of work when everyone else is already like smashed if they're still out. So you're like getting out of work at 12, going to have some beer, play some pool, because it's kind of all you can do with your buddies that you work with.
It's all that's open at that time.
And you grow up in that, probably pre-drinking age, and you grow up and all the things involved in that, whether it's, the sex, drugs, rock and roll, like that all happens at those hours. Like there's no other way to say it. It's just that's what happens in those hours. So you as a young adult, man or woman, you're just exposed to that for good and for bad. And so you learn some, I think, life lessons quite early. I think also being in that high pressure environment, it gives you a really good sense of humor and appreciation for your coworkers' struggles. Like you see each other really high in terms of like excelling at their job, and then for whatever reason the next day they could have the leg kicked out from underneath some of their prep and they've got to recover. And to be able to talk shit and joke around in those situations is a really, I think it's a valuable like personality trait. And I think there's other careers for sure that are good at that, but I think chefs are just the best at just talking shit the whole time and trying to make something like either boring fun or negative fun. And yeah, I don't know. Definitely damaged, but
it's a pretty unique environment.
Yeah. If I ever have offspring, would I encourage them to be a chef? Probably not. They'd have to really want to do it, like on their own rather than I wouldn't push them to it.
That's exactly the kind of approach I have whenever like somebody's like, oh yeah, maybe my nephew or something. Yeah, they can become a chef. And I'm like, I'll never encourage that, like unless it comes out of really their own desire and they're like fighting for it. I'll never say it's a good idea to do that.
Well, and that's probably true for any career, right? Any kind of investment into a craft. Okay, do you know what that means to say I want to be a chef? And no one really does except for chefs or people that have been servers or people that have been, caught we're in the industry for a little bit. No one has any idea what it means to be a chef. And maybe it changes. I think the industry, as all industries, are going to change quite rapidly. And I think it's getting a little healthier. I think mental health is the focus now more than it was before. And yeah, like exactly like you said, you have to really want it because it's really hard. And I remember early in my career wanting to quit. Just, this sucks. This is impossible. I'm not good at it. I'll never get. And then all of a sudden you just, for whatever reason, I just doubled down. I think when I got into yachting as well, because that was really inspiring to get into yachting. It's like, oh, I can go see the world. This is incredible. Rather than walking past the same grease trap every day.
What the first restaurant I worked in Munich, we had to walk in through that like back alley, and there was so it's actually right next to the Hofbräuhaus. So first I walked past all the trash from the Hofbräuhaus, and I walked past all our trash, and then I walked into that basement to change, which was super like. And if I compare that to the environment I work in as private chef now, it's just like completely different worlds,
It really is. And I think what you said earlier too about there's so many different ways to be a chef, and I think any advice to the youngins coming up is like just keep your eyes open for opportunities. Just head on a swivel because you go learn food as high as possible. That's what was told to me by Chef Michel Raymond. He's like, just learn food, learn this food, and then you can do anything underneath it. Don't go for the money too early. Just basically work with peanuts.
Let's double click on this because that's exactly how I approached my career initially. The first 5 years, I never went for the money. I might have asked for a raise here and there because I knew I could maybe get a couple $100 more, but I never took the jobs that gave me more money over the jobs that gave me the experience. Wow. And when I first came to New York, somebody actually offered me a head chef position already, and I was barely like a cook for 5 years. And I was like, there is no way I'll be the head chef because people will look up to me now. I want to still have people to look up to. And instead, I started working at Daniel. And obviously that brought me on a completely different trajectory, and I'm still reaping the benefits from that. Yeah. Just by the name itself, people, I'm like, okay, cool, sorted, Yeah.
And I think that has to be true for any career. And I think people probably come to you for advice, like you said, a nephew or someone wants to, should my son or my daughter wants to become a chef, and the culinary school always gets brought up. And this is my opinion. I'm not right. This is just my opinion. But I would rather look at a resume that has 2-year apprentice on it, like 1 year at 2 different Michelin-starred restaurants or something, than a 2-year culinary degree. I think it's a scam. You can't like sit in a classroom and cross your legs and take notes and learn how to cook. Like it sounds like it's like an easy way out. You won't get ahead. You'll show your financial commitment. Or for 45% of that money, go work for free for 2 years and just become a badass, and then figure out, do I want to do this? Because it's hard.
I like the way that we did that in Germany. So I worked at a Michelin-starred restaurant for 2.5 years. And in the first year, I would go to school maybe 5 days of the month, and then in a block. And then in the consecutive years, maybe I go to school once a week. So you get kind of that school input, but I also work the entire week in the restaurant and the weekend. So you get like both together, and you have real experience when you're done with it.
Yeah, that's way better. My version was, I think we had trimesters. So one was practical. So you were working in some sort of restaurants, but in the school. So shitty school restaurants, like shitty ones. So you were free labor. And then one was like, I forget, whatever, sitting in a classroom. And then I forget the third, but good story, Brennan. Yeah, I don't remember how it went, but it wasn't as cool as going and working at a Michelin-starred restaurant. I think that would have been fantastic.
Well, that was just a restaurant that I chose to work at. Like the other students in school, they might have worked at a canteen or at a hotel, or it was just me. I back then I interviewed with Arabella Sheraton, Crow Hotel. They hired me first. Then I was standing in the kitchen there, and they trained me on the room service kitchen for 2 days. And then suddenly I was the room service cook. I'm like, how is this possible? I just started cooking. Like, how can I be the cook here? And I didn't like that. That's again, I was like, I'm just cheap labor here, And then I quit there and I went to the Michelin-starred restaurant.
Yeah, there's an aspect to that. I do think the culinary school, it's a bit of, I kind of see, chefs in the background going, I've got a business idea here. Hear me out. We're going to get some kids. They're going to charge them a lot of money. They're going to work for us, driving our food costs almost to nothing. Come on.
Yeah. So what would you say is a good experience that prepares you for yachting?
Yeah, Michelin. Yeah, not because even guests want Michelin's food all the time, but I think in that level of restaurant, the amount of tricks that you learn, the amount of just little random things. I still geek out on it. I just did a stage in at a 1-star in Dublin. It's just great. Like the containers people use, the how they build up their mise en place just to a level where they can hold it for a day or two before they have to turn it over. Just how they set up the dish pit. Like it's the highest level of food. And then you can only kind of absorb all of that and then use that on a yacht, I feel like. And again, it's not like they want Michelin-starred food every day. They just want really good quality food done to a high level. But yeah, I don't know if that answers your question.
Yeah. And I think that's even basic items done on the best level. That's what people want in private. Like actually most of the time, my clients don't want Michelin-starred restaurant. They just want the ability to do it when the guests come.
Yeah.
And everything else, they just want on the highest level.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Agreed. Yeah. They just want they want to get introduced to, in my opinion, they want to get introduced to ingredients. Wagyu is now pretty common and I don't use it that much, but I do love a Wagyu brisket. That's pretty badass. There's stories about, you can get fresh Alaskan salmon that's unbelievable. It's actually kind of hard to get because the Japanese buy it all. You can get fresh king crab that hasn't been cooked. It's frozen raw. And it's just like these experiences, and you can tell a story too. Like if you happen to travel there, like I've had ceviche on the coast of Peru with popped corn, steamed sweet potato, and just ceviche. It was fantastic. And that's a story. I can riff on that so many different ways and have fun with that texture, the sweetness, the sourness, the saltiness. Yeah, I think those kind of went off on a tangent there. To answer your question, but it's you can tell perfect. I still love it. It's a cool career.
This is actually something that I didn't understand whatsoever in the beginning. And if somebody would walk in the kitchen and say, "What's for dinner?" I would just say steak. and you can tell the disappointment because I'm not like creating an entire image or a story or I'm selling it, and I'm just like, steak. They would look at me like, what's wrong with you?
Yeah, I do the same. It's kind of, or like you're chatting with someone after a long day charter or whatever, like, what'd you make? And you're supposed to be excited about something. Like, can I just get a minute to not think about food? Like, I love food, but I just need just a minute to not think about food. Or like, just like you said, like a crew member come in and you're supposed to regale them of this tale of like, I just started having the menus printed and just every morning the menus go up so people can at least know what they're eating. And yeah, because it is a hassle when you have like 17 to 25 crew members asking you what's for lunch. You're like, Love them. I love them, but it gets annoying.
I always find the idea of having to cook for all the crew members as well as the guests, like, it sounds like so much work.
It is. It's an absurd amount of work. I can go into that if you want.
Yeah.
So there's and you probably know this already, but there's I think the warriors of the industry are the sole chefs. As boats get larger, obviously there's more crew, and then it gets to a certain size, there's a second chef, and then even bigger boat, third, fourth, so on.
Yeah.
So there are these pain points where the boat's pretty big, it's got a lot of crew, and so like a 55 meter will only have one chef normally. That's kind of the line. Anything above that's usually two. And then there's another pain point up until 90 where you have only two chefs, but you've got like 30 something crew, and just the amount of food that comes into the boat prepped and then goes into the crewmaster, it's wild. And it is a ton of work. It's 5 meals a day, usually. Some boats, 6 meals a day. So lunch and dinner for crew, breakfast, lunch, and dinner for guests. This is only when there's guests on board. So there's kind of two lifestyles for a chef on board. Guests on, guests off. And guests on is 18 hours a day, usually. And there's no real way around that. Usually, like, you'll have at some point in your career, you have some young captain come down and be like, your hours of rest are kind of illegal. It's in the red. Have you thought about organizing your day differently? And I'm like, oh, you motherfucker. Like, what do you think? I do this because I want to? Like, I have to do this to serve high quality food. And there's no tricks to good food, as you know. It takes time and it takes love. There's no shortcutting that shit. Yeah. But some young captain would be like, I bet you could organize your day differently. Fuck you. Like, you have no idea. You have no idea.
So on a rotation, you have those 16, 18-hour days for 8 weeks. Then you get to be home with the family for 8 weeks.
Yeah, and that's only kind of new in the industry as well. It used to be the seasons that were the killer, but was a weird kind of Stockholm syndrome thing for not just chefs, but I think for all of us. Like, you work on a busy charter boat, your season starts maybe late April, and it can go as far as early October. And you're doing back-to-backs. So you're doing 5, 7 charters. Those charters can be between a week and 3 weeks. And then you have guest ownerships throughout. And it's just like, for me, it's like you stack a bunch of money. You probably put on 30 pounds. You're pretty miserable by the end of it. And you're just like, why do I do this? But it's such a rush to, like, because you go into the beginning of the season, you're like, fuck. And I've talked to captains about this. You go into the beginning of the season, like, oh shit, we're doing this again. Like, fuck, you're back here. And then you get like over that tipping point and you're on the downhill part of it. And you're like, yeah, you get this momentum, like, fuck, we did it, because it's hard. It's legit hard to keep that kind of inspiration, momentum, all those positive vibes going at the end for all of us, not just the galley. So I like that team aspect of it. Now, thankfully, that's shifted into rotation, even on charter boats, because it's a little bit harder on a charter boat because the chef carries a little bit of weight in terms of the guests. Maybe repeat clients are going to want the chef, and there's a kind of a character to the chef in terms of, it's kind of like a floating resort, and it's just a little bit trickier to flip out chefs, but it's healthier, and the industry is going that way. So most of it is going that way. Yeah.
And it's funny how chefs celebrate the insanity of our industry. Like, I remember in the early days in the restaurant, I would like come home and be so proud how insane everything is, and people would look at me like, "What the fuck's wrong with you?" Like,
yeah, chefs are martyrs, and it's. I love how you said that. To celebrate the insanity, but it's true. I mean, you hang out with a group of chefs. We're all similar in a certain way. We're never kind of mild-mannered. We're kind of, we're just kind of out there, and we've all been through some shit to get any modicum, any part of success. We've been through some wins and some losses.
I always used to joke, there's a reason they're hide us in the kitchen.
That's changing, though. I feel like even in super yachting, it's like people come down the galley all the time. I go out to the galley all the time. I feel like the olden days of food, it was just some guy smoking a cigarette with a dirty apron down in a cellar somewhere, and I think that's in my opinion, the Food Network has just made the celebrity chef kind of movement, from whether it was whoever the first one, whether it was Escoffier or the crew in Lyon or was it Marco Pierre White and so on and so forth. But yeah, there was a time where you were like some weird goblin in a room somewhere. We still kind of are, but we get to see the light every once in a while. People want to talk to us. I don't know why.
That's actually one of the differentiators going private. I think one of the first things that gets you canceled in private is not being able to present yourself or speak to people.
Yeah.
Like if you're somewhat odd, I think you just, there's just no way somebody will hire you in their estate unless they actually lock you up in the kitchen.
Or they're odd themselves. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, think about that. It's pretty intimate. Like you're gonna have a human in your home cooking food that's gonna enter into your mouth, and you want that person to be clean, somewhat intelligent. Yeah. I remember going to I think we went to Nikki Beach in St. Bart's with the owner of the yacht that I was working on. He invited us out, and Derek, his PA, who's a good friend of mine, and I was like, Derek, we should go check out the kitchen. He's like, and Derek is older and a chef. He's like, wow, I don't want to do that. I'll never want to fucking eat here again. It's like certain things you don't want to see. So when on the private side of it, it's like everything's kind of out in the open, and it's way different than going to your favorite restaurant and not seeing that there's some gnarly shit in the background.
Yeah, sometimes you don't want to know what's happening in there. And that's probably, you've been to so many countries, you must have seen nasty kitchens.
Yeah, I've seen some pretty shocking ones. But yeah, again, I try not to look. But it's I think two different tacks to go with this. But yeah, India was for sure what I was seeing there in terms of like the butcher in India is in the part of India that I saw. I'm not going to say all of India. India is massive. I'm talking about what I saw, which is northeast India, like the Darjeeling. It was in Darjeeling, and it's just pretty grim. But what's crazy for me that I wish I could share with people in a way that makes more sense. I wish I could just beam it to your mind rather than trying to tell you. But to go from a nice white yacht where you and your compatriots prepare the food, you're in charge of the food and the cleaning and the ordering and menu planning and everything, to flying back to Kyrgyzstan or Kazakhstan to my motorcycle where I left it, and then every time I have to come back and get okay again with taking dirty food from dirty hands again, because I can't eat out of a packet, I can't.
Yeah.
And it's always just fuck. It's such a yin yang just dichotomy of billionaire, dirtiest street food you could ever imagine, because I need to eat. I have to eat.
Do you get sick a lot?
Yeah. I think.
Yeah.
I mean, and Bourdain was one of the of many of the kernels of wisdom gleaned from that amazing human. One of them was get sick. Don't eat the chips for days and days. Just get sick. Your stomach will adjust. And I thought that this is my version of that. I don't see the locals shitting themselves all over the place. You know what I mean? It's not like they're human. They're eating the same food, and your stomach will adjust to it. But so far no amoebas or worms or anything. I don't think I got all right. But there's more traveling yet to come. So knock on wood.
I think the only time I was actually afraid of worms was I was in Thailand, and by coincidence I was part of a Korean tribe wedding, and in the morning of the wedding they were slaughtering some 6-7 pigs with mahitis, and they gave me a mahiti, and we were just chopping the raw meat and we were mixing it with blood and spices and literally eating it raw. And I was like, this could easily give me some worms.
yeah This is Parasite waiting to happen. I'm doing it on purpose.
Yeah,
because you want to experience that stuff, and I love that you did that, because it's challenging. People, I think, see guys like you and me eat some weird shit on camera. I'm still challenged. I don't want to do it. I definitely don't. I'm gonna do it, and that's the interesting part too. Like you just got to challenge yourself with some sort of blood-borne flesh-eating bacteria that you ate in Thailand to deal with for 3 years.
Actually, I think out of so what you said about the locals also eating it, it's just that you and me, we're changing the environment so often.
Yeah.
And I think it's actually very hard for the gut to kind of live with that. Like if I think about the evolution of man, like in order for us to actually go to a different place that's completely different, it would have been a very gradual journey. We would have walked there, and the environment would have changed as we would have walked there. But now we're able to kind of, by historic standards, almost teleport ourselves, like taking an 8-hour flight, being on a different continent.
Yeah. I guess it is challenging. I've been listening to the Huberman podcast a lot, and he's like, you got to start smashing kombucha every day, refrigerated pickles and refrigerated kimchi, things that have the active bacteria still in it. It's really good for our gut health, and I think that's going to be the future of science too.
Kombucha has so much sugar. How is that good for gut health?
It's got lively bacteria as well. Not all kombucha is sickeningly sweet though. I've made kombucha. You might have too. I didn't realize how much fucking caffeine is in that shit. So I was like, I was making it and I'd drink it at night and I'd just be like, wow, because you make it with black tea. Yeah, it's super good.
Sorry for the interruption, but we gotta share the news with you. Nothing Fishy from FultonFishMarket.com. They're delivering world-class seafood from New York City's legendary Fulton Fish Market straight to your door. Their fishmongers have helped countless chefs get what they need when they need it for over 200 years. Trusting FultonFishMarket.com means their experts work tirelessly to make your day run smoothly. Let your cooking skills shine and elevate your dishes with amazing seafood from FultonFishMarket.com.
But that's the future of medicine, that gut health thing. Yeah, I'm about to do a test now, actually, soon. We're right on the cusp of that, but we need like the supercomputing power plus AI to figure out there's like trillions of different types of bacteria in your gut. Trillions.
Yeah, well, so they can't really tell you whether you have good or like bad gut microbiome yet. They're like, okay, you're like that. Like whatever the tests, they can't really tell you what to change.
Yeah, it's coming. It's soon, but it's not.
But anyway, I'm damn excited about all of the like earlier we spoke about my dad, for example. There's things that I was able to do for him that hospitals don't do for their patients. Like I bought an 8-sleep bed for him, which I saw his health decline before his doctor said anything, because I was tracking his sleep, and I could tell that that his breath rate changed at night, and everything, that he was moving more, he was sleeping worse. I was like, something isn't right. And I think that's so cool because that's on an individual level, and I think the same is true for the gut microbiome, where you can do tests now and it can get catered so personally and you can track so much that like the availability to at least display health is for an individual is so, like, for example, blood sugar. My father-in-law had to do blood sugar, and I thought this is such a joke, man. They're determining one value during the day on blood sugar, one single value,
and it goes up and down.
And they're telling you to come 2 hours after a meal, and I'm like, this value means nothing. And today you have CGM, you can just take a continuous glucose meter. Monitor, and you can get 2 weeks of information, and then you actually know what's going on in compared
data.
to an individual measurement.
Yeah, then you have data. Yeah, I get my blood test done I want to do it every year because now there's all these biomarkers and stuff, and I paired that with my DNA, what's there, and it's pretty cool. It's all on your phone as well.
You've done that 23andMe or something like that?
No, I did Inside Tracker, but I'm going to switch to this other one. Just seems a little bit more. What I didn't like about Inside Tracker is they didn't tell you anything. It said, here's the data, but you didn't get to talk to anyone. where there's a much more personalized one that at least in the beginning is slightly cheaper. But I'll want to compare that with, and I've kept every blood test that I've done over the last like 4 years, so just to keep track,
Nice.
because I can't rely on medicine as it is now to keep track of this stuff. Nor do you actually need to. It's hard. I'm always traveling, so to have a primary care physician, I'm like, well, where? It's really inconvenient. That's a necessity.
I think what you're doing, and also what I'm doing, is it's taking the responsibility for our health, and instead of relying on, I had the same issue. I didn't have a doctor anymore because I started traveling and it was in different places. So I just had to start like, okay, these are my medical records. They're not with the doctor, but those are my medical records.
Yeah.
And I think it's really cool to be on top of that, because I think that what I'm seeing in the medical industry and people, they go to doctors and they want a solution from the doctor, whether sitting there and proactively seeking something with the doctor. You know, there's like this, oh, give me a tablet or something kind of culture.
Yeah. Oh yeah, especially in America.
Rather than sitting there and be like, okay, I understand. So what is it that I can do to improve this? They're really just like, okay, what pill are you giving me, kind of thing.
Yeah, I think that's a symptom of many different problems at once, where most of the time the solution is get more sunlight, lose weight, get better sleep, probably to most things. And then there's no money in that for pharmaceutical industry, so they much rather sell you a pill. They much rather sell you a vaccine or some sort of bizarre one-hit wonder. Just do this and don't worry about that.
But the thing is, people want that, like the Ozempic, for example.
It's easier. It just is, but it's not practical. It reminds me of the snake oil salesman from like the old West days. I don't know if you have that kind of history in Germany, but it's for us, it's like some guy with a bunch of bullshit, like, hey, this is the one thing, and that's big pharma has come from the guy with a little shitty rickety wagon to running our country.
Yeah, let's not go there. Let's go to the galleys instead.
Yeah.
And why are you so eager to transform galleys?
I think so. I've been a yacht chef for 22 years. I've been cooking food for 31, and it's cooking food for money. You know, like not just like I'm making food for myself, but people pay me to cook for a long time. So I saw really nice kitchens. I've seen really nice kitchens in homes. I've seen really nice kitchens on yachts. But the yacht thing is wild. Like from the beginning of my career to now, kind of every level of the game, I started at the bottom like everybody else and worked my way up to like 150 meter, like really big yachts. And I'm going to throw a random percentage out there. It's unquantifiable, but I'd say about 85% of these boats, these galleys, have been built without a chef involved. And to the detriment of the owners, to the detriment of the guests, to the detriment of the crew. Like it's a really stupid room to overlook. Really stupid. I had one chief engineer say, I forget, we're in the middle of charter season. He came in and he's like, you guys are working hard. I'm like, yeah, this is kind of what we do every season. It was like my third summer on that boat. He's like, you guys are in charge of morale. He's talking to my sous chef and I. And like, what do you mean? He's like, you're in charge of guest morale. You're in charge of crew morale. Like, come on, man. And he kind of has a point. And you know this too, is like good food on a guest trip can get you through bad weather. It can get you through broken tenders. It can get you through, if the guests are happy with the food, if they got kids and you can make the kids happy with the food, the parents are happy. It's a really integral part to a resort that floats on the water, which is what we do. So I see an opportunity for me. Like I've already designed some pretty major galleys. I got very lucky just in my career anyway to get almost gifted these opportunities that didn't make me any money, but that got me boats that I can point at now and be like, if you like that, then let's do some business together, because that's what I can do. And this is why. Yeah. And it's quite cool because when I'm in front of Fedship or when I'm in front of Larson or I'm in front of a build captain or owner rep, I observe the GA, so the general arrangement. It's like a blueprint of the prospective yacht that's going to be built. Usually you have to sign an NDA to even get a look at these things. And I'm like, well, what if we did this? What if we did this? What if this? Oh, you want to? The owner has requested a separate galley, an owner galley. Okay, well, why isn't it one deck above the crew galley? All you did was separate it. You didn't put it to where he's going to eat 95% of the time. So let's move that galley up all the way to the top, because that's the luxury of having an owner's galley, to have it right where they're going to eat. And I don't know, it's just like these are things that in the industry I'm seeing people that have never been on the operational side of boats and they're designing these things. And I don't think that's right to the overall guest experience. I see an opportunity for me. I'm not going to do it for free, but to me, it's obvious that, and people be like, oh, well, chefs are different. They want different stuff. I'm like, kind of bullshit. 95% will be exactly the same. But all captains are different. They would want slightly different bridge layouts. All engineers are different. They want slightly different engine. You still listen to them, but so your solution to all chefs are different is to ignore the whole group and you build it. Right. That should go well. What could go wrong with that? And that's where we're at now. That's what I'm seeing now. Of course there's that 15% where the owner's rep or the owner or the build captain is clever enough to be like, yeah, I've been on boats where a chef is on a galley. It's way better than the boats where a chef hasn't been involved at all in the build. So yeah, that's kind of the nitty gritty of what I'm doing now. It's important to me. It's a buzz to become a small business owner after all these years of working for someone else. And it's satisfying though. I'm glad I made the move for sure.
Just to confirm the entire theory behind that, one time I started working in a kitchen where the original architect forgot to put a garbage bin in the kitchen. Like there was no room in the kitchen design to put a simple garbage bin. And right. I'm like, what kind of people designed these?
Yeah, because it sounds like it was tight, and it means. Yeah. But when I hear someone says no room for a garbage bin, it means like there's barely room for two people to pass and not rub their genitals on the ass of the other one as they do it. You know what I mean?
And then one time this was too funny. This was a chef's kitchen, and they had another kitchen for themselves. And the chef's kitchen had this really, behind the stove, had glass. And I'm like, why would you put a piece of glass behind? Which just by the temperature bursted once. And it had one of those like in-home kind of exhaust system instead of. I'm like, why, guys? This is the chef's kitchen. Give me like proper things to work with, yeah. And when the glass bursted by the heat, I was like, hey guys, how do we feel about putting a piece of stainless steel behind this just so it's actually workable? Like, no, this is a home, not a professional kitchen. And then meanwhile, the entire one side where the two fridges and was stainless steel, and the counter on the other side was also stainless. I'm like, I guess insane, or but like sometimes you just can't argue with them.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, especially, and that was a home.
Yeah,
or was that a professional? I want to do homes too, because like if I was wealthy and I was building a massive house, would I want a chef to design my kitchen, or would I want an interior designer to build my kitchen? For me, I'd want a chef, and then the interior designer can put some sparkles on it, like that. And I think that's a better relationship than having someone that's not a professional chef, but they've designed kitchens. Like there's certain things that I'm going to have a sink on the island. I'm going to have PowerPoints on the island. I'm going to have a nice, cool way to get rid of trash kind of in two different spots. The dish area is going to make a lot of sense. You're going to work from left to right. The dishwasher is going to be there. It's going to be a high-speed, badass one. It's not going to be these melee pieces of shit. It's just, there's things that like I want to translate into homes as well, because I think I've seen some magnificent homes in my career. I'm sure you have too. And you're like, all money was no object, and you came up with this. This is it. Awesome. Let's cook.
Yeah, and the funny thing is like then you're standing there and you have like those top of the line Miele dishwashers, and then it's like, okay, guys, this is just not doing the job fast enough. Like,
no, it's still a 26-minute cycle, or I get a Hobart with a 90-second cycle, or I can put a short cycle on it for 60 seconds. But no one's even heard of these things, and I think that's no one's even heard of rational ovens in a home. Like no one's even heard of they think like Wolf and Gaggenau. Like I just cooked on in a gas oven recently for the first time in a long time. It sucked. It was like 50% slower. It really was bad. Yeah.
I mean, once you have rational, then everything seems like bad.
But that needs to get moved into homes. If they can afford it, then there's levels, especially if you're not going to cook, especially if you're going to have staff. If you're going to build this home, I was helping my friend Josh in Beverly Hills and working for someone super famous. I'm not going to say who it was, and it was a cool setup because they kind of thought about it, but it was halfway. It still could have been just to have, like, if you're going to have staff, you're going to be that wealthy and you're going to have staff. You're going to have like 15 people to feed every day. Plus I'm going to throw about 3 parties every year that are going to have about 250 people. You need a chef to come in to help you design that. You can't just put 4 burners in an oven.
Yeah.
Refrigerator. Done. This should be sweet. Your party's going to suck. You're going to have it catered. Yeah. It's one of those things where only chefs can recognize the stuff. And then we get dismissed as, chefs. They're never happy. Well, you didn't even try to make us happy. Like, what are you talking about? You just stick us in terrible situations and expect us to, like, magically make it work. And most of the time we do. But if you gave us a shot at an environment that was actually set up by a pro, 4 pros, it'd be better for everyone. I feel like I'm just pitching my business the whole time.
It's okay. But it's true. And I feel like sometimes, they give you something that they are very excited about, and they're like, yeah, this is great. And I'm like, no, it's a piece of shit.
Yeah. It's true. I mean, and at the risk of sounding like probably an annoying chef, but you'll get a management company, and they've got to a new build, and there was a build captain involved, and no chef was consulted at all. And then you can just see these guys like looking at the galley like, sick galley, like this is really, really nice. And then they hire a chef, and the chef comes in and is like, can I change any of this? They're like, no, why would you? It's new, it's great, it's a great galley. No, there's 1 oven. Why is there 1 oven? We need at least 2, and so on and so forth. But yeah, I feel like, no one knows but chefs, and people are deciding not to listen to us, and that hurts everybody.
Yeah. So what would you say is like the biggest downside to becoming a yacht chef?
The biggest downside? Living in a bunk bed. I think it's a younger man or woman's game. It's easier if you're single until you get rotation than to have long distance relationships. There's a lot of positives. Otherwise, I wouldn't have done it for 22 years. I just wouldn't have. I would have come up with another idea. I'm not beholden to one idea. I like to make pivots, but negatives, yeah, bunk bed. Every situation is different. I feel like nothing is perfect. You never have like the best captain, the best owner, the best crew, the best yacht, the best itinerary, the best management company. Like, of those 6, something will be fucked. And it can only really take one to make that a really unpleasant place to work, kind of thing. Like, but then it's pretty cutthroat industry. You can just leave 2 weeks notice, see you later. There's no like pension or any of those other kind of things that keep people beholden to a job. And yeah, you can kind of cut loose whenever you want and find something a little bit better. But it is hard to find like all those things kind of perfect on one job. I've gotten close a few times.
So what are the good things?
The good things. You have a day off or 2 days off, sometimes maybe 3 days off in Positano, Italy. It's just like magic. You just walk off a boat and you're in Positano. You don't have to pack, you have to fly, you have to taxi, hotel, just you're there. Then that translates into the deep connection with food in terms of, well, if I'm in Genoa, well, now I know that's where pesto came from with trophy pasta. Like that's where it came from. Like, I know that. I've been there. I've looked it up. You have these food stories, back to like kind of the ceviche thing, is that you're connected with. It depends on the boat, but the milk run is the Med in the summer and the Caribbean in the winter. It's just wild. Like, you just see, to spend time in Turkey, to spend time in Greece, to spend time in Croatia, and just to be there and see it and experience it, and then have that story to tell. I think as high as that, as well as the camaraderie, like what I'll miss the most of yachting is the crew mess. And I know the crew are kind of the hardest for captains and owners to deal with, but like some of just because, I don't know, we're just the most expensive part of the whole process, and crew are never happy, all that stuff. I know, but that crew mess is quite hilarious. Like, there's a lot of just banter and back and forth, and it does feel like that kitchen. It feels like a kitchen crew, especially And I know I keep saying it, and it's just my opinion, but like charter crew are usually pretty tight. They've been through hell and back, probably more than one season, more than like 2 or 3 summers together in the Med, and just cranking out charters. And there's that camaraderie. Like you can tell each other to fuck off. You can say that jokingly, you can say it seriously, but we're going to be good afterwards because we just know each other. That is one of my most favorite parts about the whole ride that I've been on. Money's good. The time off is good once you sort that out. Once you get to a certain part in your career where you can get the rotation jobs and you can get on the good boats and you can ignore the riff-raff, because there's a lot of boats that just they rip through crew for a reason, and in the beginning of your career you have to pay your dues and you want to work on that boat for a year and it's a nightmare, and then as you get longer in the tooth in the industry, you just can tell those boats to pound sand. Other positives, it's amazing to be out in the water. Like it's just that aspect of adventure, that crossing the Atlantic or going through the Suez Canal or Panama, or it's to see the stars at night, to see the dolphins in the bow wake, to just random shit, just the random things that happen. Weather gets crazy. Seeing some huge oceans. I had to look at night with 2 of my comrades, look for a bomb in the hull of a 86-meter fed ship. Like it's just wild, like. And if you don't, you just have to be in it. And once you're in it, once you're in the industry, this stuff kind of just happens. I got invited out with the owner's son once, and we drank way too much, and he ended up shitting himself. Just wild shit. You're like, oh, yeah. I'm still covered in the NDA. I didn't say when, where, who. So, yeah,
that's the fine line we dance, no?
yeah. And I think like people are gonna expect me to say celebrities, but it's not really that high on the list. It's high. I think it's what people want to ask me about the most, but it's not. Yeah, it's never been kind of the main draws. I like my previous answers.
Yeah, I also don't think that never made my career richer to like so that you can walk around name dropping. Like the one aspect I like by working for very wealthy people is the no budget constraint, because then you're in a situation where it's really on you to deliver. Once you're in that world, you can't say, "Oh, I'm not allowed to use good products. I don't have the right equipment and stuff." Once you're on that level, it's just on you. If you can't make it happen, then most likely it's just our skill set. Or
I forgot. I left that off too. That is a good one. To not have to make $1 out of 33 cents. Like to not have to. Yeah, it's so much more liberating, and you can mess around and play with things so much more and order the best stuff. Because again, I mean, part of our role, I think, as private chefs is to tell a story and read the room. If no one wants to hear your story, then shut up. But if people want to, kind of talk about the flat cod fishing industry or Patagonian toothfish, or why is Black Angus still so good, and Wagyu is good but in a different way, and why does the chicken in France have small breasts and the American ones have massive breasts, and there's all these things like.
Why is everything bigger in the United States?
Yeah, true. But this is part of, like, as chefs, we end up becoming food scientists. We end up becoming like geologists. We become politicians. We become all these things impact food, and that's something I didn't know as a young chef when I chose this career. And part of that is the motorcycle travel and the yacht work, but you end up learning a ton about society and history. Like the history of food is wild. Pasta's from China. Tomatoes are from the New World. So what's Italian food? What does the word authentic mean? Like when is that? Is that authentic and traditional? I'm like, that doesn't make any sense. Because I need to talk about it.
I love that you're pointing at that. I was just last week, I was thinking about something that came to India from somewhere else, and I was like, this is not Indian by tradition. And then this was also just introduced here like 100 years ago, and now they've adopted it in such a way that you think it's Indian.
Yeah, and it's a timeline. I mean, there's I'll go back to tomatoes. There's tons of tomatoes in Indian food. Well, that
Germans are famous for potatoes and potato dishes, but potatoes come from the New World.
Yeah, they come.
And they were introduced in Europe because they were helping them get through the many famines in the winter. Like the Europeans were starving every other winter, So then finally, when they got the potatoes from overseas, they had something that would bring them through the winter and less people would die. So in Germany, it was actually by the king's decree back then that everybody should plant potatoes. That's where the German cuisine around potatoes stems from.
Yeah, this is fascinating. This is what I love about being a chef, is that you could either believe what you were told or you can question it, like, because that happens a lot too, where people are like, oh, I heard it was this. And then you or I will go research the hell out of it. Oh, we've already known that all potatoes are from the Andes. And no one even knows how many varieties there are. There's some say 10,000, some say 3,000. And so that's morphed into the Irish, the Germans, North Americans. It's just such a cool thing that no one knows. And I feel like there's so much more of those little kind of secrets to uncover. And like, I want to expose people to that, like on the YouTube channel when I'm riding a motorcycle. And I just want to have those experiences in person and be able to talk about these things that, as a chef, with a relative, degree of knowledge of food in general, where I find shit that surprises me, I just want to share it.
Yeah, just want people to see your YouTube channel. Olive oil and gasoline, just so that everybody has seen it one more time.
Yeah, that's it.
Man,
getting there.
If you look at your life, like diving, living on a motorcycle, it's what happened here? What chaos increased? The yacht chef.
Dean rolled his ankle. Yeah, we were supposed to have kind of like my other chef friend Ian was coming. Just 3 chefs were going to go, hang out in Greece, and just went bad early. Too bad. But yeah, I mean, all these, to look back on these memories too, like, even though, YouTube, I don't make any money on YouTube. At all. I'm in the negative, but that's like, at the very minimum, it's a repository of like really cool memories. And yeah, I just enjoy it. And all these random opportunities come as well. So it isn't about the money. It's about kind of the reach and the coming up in search, and some really unique opportunities come my way, and more and more. And I would encourage anyone to kind of get in that social media. If you want to tell a story, if you really like telling a story, like, then do it. Even in the beginning, where I was getting a couple hundred views on videos or less, I still felt like I was getting 10 times back more than I put out. So in that way, it is kind of stuff. You do get more back than it appears.
The one thing, the way I look at views, I don't get caught up too much in the metrics game. And I always think about it, if these many people were in the room with me.
Yeah.
And then even the number 10 is already cool. Because like, if I have 10 people in the room and I can share my knowledge with them, or what a guest is sharing, and it's 10 people who get, obviously you want to reach more people, but everything in my head starts with one. Like, if this video touches one person and helps them to decide whether they want to work on a yacht or not, I think that's amazing. If we've served one person, and then where it finds its ways, maybe it will reach more people. But I always come from that mindset of serving and starting with one person.
Yeah, the service and providing a service and adding value to the audience and giving them something. Yeah, and that's not always easy to figure out the line of what you want to tell versus what they want to see or hear. I think if I had some kind of magical kitchen where I could do like cooking technique demonstrations, I think that was one of the most fun part of my journey. I hate that word, but to get to YouTube was just doing these quarantine kitchen videos during COVID on Facebook, and they just got shared. And I was on this 8-week charter, and the food requirements were super easy. I could almost be prepped out and finished by like 11 a.m. every day. So I had time to film and just do like edit from my phone. So I would just be like, every night I would just be like hunched over my phone like Gollum, like just like editing. Don't edit from a phone, always edit from a laptop. And so that started me, that encouraged me to then start YouTube. But I would love to do more cooking technique videos, because I feel like it's more practical to teach, like from a chef's perspective, rather than a recipe. Like, watch me do a recipe, pretty much anyone can do that. But this is how I like roasting a potato. And like, can you just chop up potatoes, toss in oil, put in the oven? Yeah. But if you boil them first, mash them up with some butter and whatever kind of fat you want, and then roast them that way, it's just pretty sick. And just those techniques where you don't have to be weighing it, you don't have to be looking at your phone, or it's just like, just remember to do those steps, and it'll be a great great way. I would like to do more of those, but I don't have this magical mobile kitchen that can go wherever I am. Yeah.
I actually think that's a form of content that people also enjoy. Like, I see my wife a lot to just pull up the phone and look for those kind of like easy 3-step recipes in like a condensed version on YouTube. Like, okay, got it, and then just kind of goes with it.
Yeah, I mean, I did, little simple things like roasting bacon in an oven. There's so many people that don't know how to do that. It's just clearly the best way to cook bacon. It's fast, doesn't make a mess, or it kind of makes a mess in your oven, but it was fun. I like going to like really nice restaurants and not doing a review, but just taking people like on a tour. Those are fun as well because not everyone has access to, France and Stockholm, or the money or the free time or whatever. And rather than, I would never assume to review a place like that. Like, no, but it's genius. It's literally genius at work. I just want to share it, tell that story because I think it's cool. Places like France and amazing.
Yeah. Well, Brennan, I thank you for your time, and I hope for many years, that you will find different ways to share your culinary journey, your travels with people on your channel or beyond. Maybe I don't know what the future of technology looks like, but I think it's pretty cool what you're doing and how much you're enjoying it, and I think that's like the intersection of it, where your passion meets something that can help others and that they enjoy, and it's entertainment and education at the same time.
Yeah, service. That's what we're born into in our careers, and yeah, it feels good to give. And I really I appreciate you having me on your podcast, and best of luck in the podcasting world. I love it, man. Yeah, I really appreciate you having me on.
We'd like to thank our sponsor, FultonFishMarket.com, the best seafood in the nation, trusted by the best chefs in the world. Aside from offering premium seafood, they also make life easier for you by delivering all these outstanding products right to your doorstep. Visit the official website www.fultonfishmarket.com and explore the incredible selection of seafood and let your clients experience quality that has captivated palates for generations. Use code PRIVATECHEF at checkout to get 15% of your first order. When it comes to seafood, FultonFishMarket.com is the name we trust. Thank you for joining us at the Private Chef podcast. If you know any highly skilled chefs that want to take their life to the next level, make sure to share this podcast with them. And if you enjoyed this episode, click subscribe and check out our upcoming episodes. Thank you for listening.